Okay, we're going to do a little pandemic rundown now because it seems the pandemic is raging again in certain parts of the world, and it's unclear what that's going to do to your neck of the world. Where we just left in Austria yesterday, oh, sorry. It's like, why are you pointing to me?
I'm pointing to that camera.
Okay, there we go. Now in Austria, they have announced that they will lock down all unvaccinated people. You're vaccinated, fine, go where you want. You have decided not to be vaccinated, you must stay home. In fact, our experience was that you could go wherever you wanted in Austria as long as you showed your vaccine certificate, but interestingly enough, they also accept recovery certificate, which in the United States, we do not. If you've had COVID, you have some immunity. And so you have natural immunity. Absolutely, David. And so you can go into a restaurant. You could, in fact, the Christmas fairs that we went into, no one wore a mask because they had to prove their vaccination status or their recovery status. Same thing for any restaurant and same thing for the hotels. But it's so interesting to not be required to wear a mask at all because you have proven your immunity level, right?
This is video from Austria this morning, and so these people are rushing to get vaccines last minutes. That's why there was all those lines because they don't. And some people in Austria are saying, "Is this Gestapo tactics?" They're literally going to be going door to door and like telling me to stay in my house if I didn't get a vaccine. And so Austrians know all too well. To throw out a term like Gestapo, what that means in that area, part of the world, of course. But this is 2 million people still have yet to get vaccine doses there. It's weird because, as you mentioned, like going into some of the different locations, like the hotel, they're like, yeah, you don't need to wear a mask or anything. You're good to go. Like if you've got the vaccine or COVID passport, you're good to go here.
Yes. And again, the COVID passport could be your recovery certificate.
Right.
So I actually brought our blood work just to prove that we were recent recovering. And we also had the vaccine. So I was all Virgo'd up.
Well, and then over in UK right now, their number 10 Downing Street wants you to have a booster jab for people to get this COVID passport. So if you want to get the COVID passport, you like the show on your phone starting very, very soon, you need to go and get a booster right now. Which I don't know. I just can't believe this. I mean, they're saying the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization continues to recommend boosters for all adults 6 months after their second jab.
And then that's like, are you going to have to get a booster every 6 months then? Like,
right. That's what we don't know, right? I mean, because we know that these things dissipate after a few months. So, and again, but you can't get a COVID passport, I guess, if
only your original 2 now.
Yeah.
So it will somehow become nullified.
Right. And also in the United States, the worst state for this right now is actually the state of Colorado. So Colorado is suffering big time right now. Beds are overrun. They've got, they're hearing from doctors there saying it's a majority of young people now. Young people who are coming in. We've got breakthrough cases, but we have a lot of unvaccinated people. And then you up in other parts of the country, you've got a large number of the people who've been dying have been vaccinated people. Like in Vermont, David and I were sharing that story the other day. So you have just like a mixed bag right now of responses. Dr. Fauci was just asked about, will we see a COVID surge? And he says, of course, conflicting things all the time. But he did say, hey, just spend your Thanksgiving together. Go have turkey together.
If you are vaccinated.
Yeah. If you're vaccinated, go hang out.
Yes.
But again, vaccinated doesn't mean you can't spread this thing.
Yes.
So if you're with your elderly grandfather and you're worried about his health, and you've been vaccinated a year ago, or 8 months ago, you could be carrying it and you could be giving it right to your grandfather. This is the hypocrisy of this whole thing is that we're just not acknowledging that you can be carrying this.
Exactly. In Singapore now, they've decided that anyone who is unvaccinated will not be eligible for health care if they need to go to the hospital. So you didn't want a vaccine? Fine. Don't come here asking the government to pay for your care now. You're on your own. So that's the gamble that you take there for that decision. And now in China, they are really still going after this zero tolerance, zero COVID inside of our borders. So now they're doing this very draconian is like the nice word for it. They are euthanizing people's pets if the owner has been diagnosed with COVID, even though there is no evidence that pets can spread COVID. They're just saying, well, that was a creature inside the COVID house. And so
beyond draconian, that's like Spanish Inquisition stuff.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's awful.
I mean, just you try to take my dog. I'd be like, no, this dog's quarantined. I mean, I would agree to quarantine the dog. Fine. I'll take the dog inside. This is the craziest thing. It's in the newsletter this morning. If you want to read more about it, make sure you're subscribed at morninginvest.com. But yes, we don't know how governments will react. And
well, we know how ours has been reacting, and Dr. Fauci has, saying on the one hand, go hang out, have Thanksgiving together. We're not even acknowledging the fact that if you have the vaccine, it can be transferred from person to person. Who cares? And then he's saying we could be in for a massive COVID wave. Listen.
It's plateaued at around 70 to 75,000, and now it's creeping up into the 80,000 per day. That's something that's entirely predictable when you have these many people, about 60 million people, who are eligible to be vaccinated who have not gotten vaccinated. And in addition, as important in some respects, it's still always the primary thing is to get the unvaccinated vaccinated. But for those who are eligible to be boosted, by all means, go and get boosted, because we know from the Israeli data that dramatically diminishes the likelihood not only of infection, but also of getting a severe outcome in people who are fully vaccinated.
It's just crazy town. And everyone's making their own calculations of like what they think protects themselves and where they should go in the world. And this rundown of stories just proves that no one has a consensus on what the right thing to do is.
Yeah.
What's crazy though about that data is like when it says that it's starting to climb in some areas of the U.S., the areas that it's climbing the most are the most vaccinated areas. That's where the outbreaks are happening the most.
Yeah. And these outbreaks, as I mentioned in Colorado, is among young people.
Right.
And so again, we are in for a COVID winter, it looks like, once again.